Alright, James Lee here, and I'm about to run my first lengthy video with full instructions on how to, what to with stainless steel. I did a bumper, collected a bunch of footage, but I could have done a lot better. I'm a metal polisher, not a videographer, and time was taken, so you're going to see the full process but only on a small portion. And basically it just runs the same as when I finally get the sample that I'm looking for. It just is the same process going throughout. But I'll be doing all kind of other videos coming up, and there's always something to say or something to think about or questions to answer. Anyways, this video is not entertaining. It is informational, and I hope you like it, and leave your questions, comments, or constructive criticism down below where it goes. Enjoy. It's on. This is it. This is the beginning of a YouTube series, 2024, January 1st, right now. I asked my TikTok guys to come on over and subscribe, build the audience a little bit, and I promised I would come on here and show you guys some of my tips and tricks. And over time, I'm gonna let it all out. I'm gonna share some of my deepest, most closely held secrets over time. And today we're actually going to get right into the deep end of it. I can't really control what comes at me, and I don't know how to start at the beginning and work my way up through it. I'm just going to take it as it comes. And so you're going to learn basics today. We're going to talk about wheels. We're going to talk about compounds. We're going to talk about metals. We're going to talk about some of the myths, like somebody once said, stainless loves heat. And that's not exactly correct. Stainless hates to be cold, so that got misinterpreted. The overheated stainless, it'll warp, turn brown. Through heat cycles, it can change hardness. There's a lot can go on from overheating, and so I wouldn't say that stainless loves heat. I would say that it likes that sweet spot in there. Well, anyways, I'm already rambling, but that's the beauty of the YouTube. I get to be myself, ramble, take my time, and just go through it. So, good morning. I'm going to move the camera closer to the bumper, and we're going to start with what somebody else did, and how I think about where to take it from here, what to do, and let's just hope it works out. Let us begin. So here's the stainless bumper I'm working on. It's never been on a truck. It's been fabbed up, and somebody else tried to grind it down and get it polished up, and I'm going to take over from here. But before I do, I'm going to give off, start kicking up dust, and I got a real nice camera over there on the tripod, and I'm going to switch over and start adding in clips from the GoPro. And thought I'd share a couple tips on how I get them where I'm going to get them. I've got them mounted on sticks, like so. This is actually a broken ski pole. This one's on a clamp. You can clamp this like anywhere. Over here on whatever. So you got a clamp. You just put it right in there, a little plastic tray that comes with the GoPro. And this is a magnet, which brings me to how do you know if a bumper is stainless or chrome, or what's going on there? You want to take a magnet and put it on there, and if it sticks real strong, stay away from that. You keep a magnet around. Anytime you're suspicious whether it's chrome plated or stainless or aluminum, whatever, grab a magnet. Now keep in mind, some stainless is magnetic. The magnet pull on stainless that's magnetic is different. It's not as strong as would be steel. So sometimes you might need to keep a sample of something steel where you can really stick hard, and then kind of measure the resistance, because stainless can be magnetic. But check the back for rust. That's another dead giveaway. You want to make sure that before you begin doing a bumper that you think is stainless and it turns out to be chrome. The guy could claim that you've trashed it the rest of the way or whatever, make you pay for something that's already not looking good to begin with. So beware of stainless versus chrome, and here's a couple of tips and tricks on how to mount the GoPros. Well, I'm not sure exactly what they were using or what was going on here, but they left a lot of compound behind. So before I even get started, I'm going to take some Renegade dissolver. I got a small hole in the cap and pour a little out on the rag. And with a microfiber, all that compound, it just melts away, disappears, and cleans up so quick and easy. There's a little bit of a citrus smell. It's not mineral spirits. I don't know what it is, but now I can see after wiping this off, I can actually see what's under there. And the reason there was so much compound building up is because the sanding was nowhere near complete. So let's see if we can get a better look at that. There's lots of sanding yet to do. They've been sanding on this, but you cannot begin buffing until sanding is proper and complete, or you'll just have nothing but trouble. Stainless is kind of like that. So we're going to go over the whole entire thing. Down here, where's that rag at? Here's the rag I was just using. And down here, they did get it looking, better. But just nowhere near finished. So we're going to sand down the whole entire thing and then repolish. We'll see what we're getting into here in just a minute. All right, I swear I'm getting closer to plugging in a grinder and going at this stainless, but first let's talk buffing wheels and sandpaper. All right, I'm going to give you a little bit of history lesson while we're talking about this stuff. I started in 1982 when I was 18 years old. I worked on hard steels doing mold and die work and doing machinery parts and stuff in a hard chrome facility. They did more industrial chrome than decorative. And anyways, way back in the day, I used to use the glue. You take the paper off here, it's like a glue on the back, and that's 80 grit. It's extremely aggressive, and it can take this stainless from right off the truck when they bring it to the fab shop, and it has zero polish on it. You could take it down with 80 grit and work your way up to, used to be greased 320. And then anyways, I found that my sanding quality was so good that the sisal buffs that I used to use, these are all sisal wheels. This is a brand new one down here. And these go on a 5 horsepower, 3-phase 220, like a stand-up pedestal machine, whatever. And sisal wheel is what that is. And I quit using those because my sanding got so good that would put a deeper line than the sandpaper I was using. So now we're going to take the Renegade plates, you go one on the back, one on the front. This has threads right in there. That'll get it on almost any machine. And we're actually going to try all the different buffs so I can get to know them and see which one leaves, more hash than the other, which one's necessary to quickly cut out the sanding lines but leave it closer to the finish. When I do aluminum, I two-step. I use a Jimmy Buffett. Let me see, I'll run over here and see if I can find one of those real quick. So we use a Jimmy Buffett on aluminum, and we're able to two-step. We go right from a Jimmy Buffett, and then we go right to Big Fluffy. Now, some people think this is a color wheel. It's not. This is a cut wheel, and it's for aluminum and brass, soft stuff, nickel. There's a lot of stuff to work on. Stainless is not one of them. If you find a way to make it work on stainless, good for you. Show me how you did it, but I'd rather use an airway. And anyways, so the two-step for aluminum, let's get back to the stainless. That's what we're here for today. But I did want to mention that about the Jimmy Buffett because there's a lot of talk and a lot of people trying that out. And there'll be some videos specifically on that later. But as I get into the sandpaper here, I'm going to go ahead and give Sunmite a try. And I brought out the 2 different ones because I don't think this is going to work as good as the green. When we're doing aluminum, things switch up just a little bit. So I've been using the Sunmite green to get all the heavy grit. And then on stainless, I would stick with green all the way to the end. But on aluminum, I stop at, say, 400 in green. And I go to 600 in gold. And then 800 in gold. And if all goes well, the buffing time with Jimmy Buffett is like super quick. Just cuts out really quick. And Yeah, all right, so I'm gonna get better at these videos as time goes on. It is what it is, but I'm about to get the next step going and prep this thing for some grinding and see how that goes. So as I finish wiping this down, I want to I'm going to repeat this a couple of times throughout my videos, and that is I do stuff a lot different than people, and so if I'm making suggestions that contradict another professional polisher, if you get my advice and then you get another professional's advice and they contradict each other, I'm not trying to say that guy's wrong. I'm trying to say he has a different way of doing things. Evan Steger, for example, he's over in Wisconsin. He's a good polisher. He's been out for a long time doing this. He knows what he's doing. He does it completely different in most cases. He's spinning 6,000 RPMs. I don't. I think he's still using 5-inch sandpaper. I'm not really sure. But there's just a lot of methods that he does different. Kevin Clapp, I just met him over there in Texas. He's an amazing polisher and a really cool guy. We got different ways we go about things, a little bit different style, different methods, different whatever. But in the end, nobody argues the end game. It's gonna look good. I mean, real good. It's gonna look good. So I don't want to say my way is the right way or the only way, certainly not the only way. And Lord knows it might not be the right way. Sometimes, you know, there's a general rule. You're gonna hear me talk about the general rule of polishing. Man, I was a troublemaker. I broke all kinds of rules and I had fun doing it. So when it comes to polishing, if you can break a couple rules, like a general rule would be like always buff off the edge or you'll catch the buffer and go flying because you gotta watch out for the edges. But if you practice long enough and you're careful enough and you kind of know what you're doing, you can break the rule and you can polish right to the edge. You can know where the edge is and how to get to it without hanging up on it. And you can just do tricks and do things that aren't really recommended, maybe kind of break the rule. So anyways, there's a general rule and then there's an exception to the rule. And nobody's right or wrong when the end game is it looks good, everybody can see it, and the customer likes it, and whatever. That's the main thing too. Is me myself, I'm capable of doing incredible show quality work, stuff that is so good you can't even wipe it with a cloth. You'll put scratches in it with toilet paper, and so. If you want to pay me to do that, like the truck guys that want to, you know, go to the show and win a trophy, if they ever want to pay me to win that trophy, it's going to be on a different level. And otherwise, my regular everyday trucks, they look good enough to go to a show and be very respectable, and they're on a price list. I just go in and I do buy a price list. I knock them all out. But if I was to do a show truck for the trophy and I knew it was going there for the trophy, it would be an entirely different deal. I'd be rolling it in all kind of light. Be trying to keep up with that guy Stéphane Touche over there in Canada. He's one of my mentors. That guy, as far as quality goes, him and Bill Dessenberg, I think they're just after they're after perfection. I think like nobody else. Anyways, that's enough name calling and shouting out and whatever. Time to get busy. So I got to start somewhere. I got a good look at the metal. There's actually still some molding marks in here from where they bent it over. The customer does not want me to make this perfect. I want to be clear. He's already spent money. He's already got time. And he said, Jimmy, if there's anything you could do on the quick and easy for it, I did laugh, and he knows he's going to be into it for some money. Well, anyways, you got to start somewhere. The common question is, how do you know where to start? Well, if you're playing it safe, you start with like 600 or 800. You know it needs to be sanded. You can do by hand. I'm going like this, and I'm starting to see all kinds of deep lines in there. So right away, I know that's not going to come out with 600 whether I put it on a machine or not. I'll be there all day. So I'll probably start with maybe 400. So I'm going to put that on the machine, and I'm going to see if it digs out the lines that are down there in the background until I get a consistent 400, And honestly, I don't think 400 is going to do it. I think we're going to have to step down just a little bit. I'm going to go to probably 320, maybe even 220 to speed it up. Whichever grit I start with, this is important. That's going to be called the working grit. No matter what grit that I start with, whether it be 220, 400, 120, I'm only looking to get the imperfections out with the grit needed. And the first grit you begin with is called the working grit. That's what I call it. After that, I call them step down grit. So the first grit is to work out imperfections, and once you're done using that grit, you're going to use over and over. Let's say we start with 220. I'm going to end up going to 220. That'll be my working grit, at least up to this hole, because after that, I think the lines get a little bit finer where they spend more time down here. So we're going to do 220 with a working grit. After I use over and over 220 and another sheet of 220 and another sheet, if I use too many sheets of 220, I probably should have started with 120. But if it's a few sheets of 220, because it does wear out quick, especially on stainless, and if you wear out the paper too much and you go past the point where it's still cut and clean, you're just marring up the metal, and I'll explain what marring or galling or whatever, all that, I'll get into that. But you don't want that to happen. So you're going through all these paper of your working grit. When you get past the working grit, which gets out the imperfections, the pits, the lines, the gouges, the scratches, the mill, the whatever it is, those are step down grits, and each one of those is not intended to get any imperfections out. It's only intended to get the previous grit. 320 is only supposed to remove 400, the other way around, 400 removes the 320, and then 600 removes the 400, and 800 removes the 600, and so on down the line. But you're never trying to work out the character of the metal with the step down grit. That should have already been done. Keep that in mind. So let's fire up the grinder. I am going to go ahead and skim this area with 400. Chances are you're going to see me flip over and drop down to either 3 or even 2. Stainless, it needs to be done in smaller steps. So I'm going to figure out what working grit it is, and I'll let you know. I'm using a Max Shine 6-inch. Semi-soft, but without interface pad. So we're going to load up our 400 directly to the pad without a cushion. I'm going to spin it up about halfway. So I'm going to say about 2,500 RPM. And we're going to go to town. What I found, I'm going to bring the camera in here closer, but what I found right away is that there's a whole bunch of deep lines coming off the edge, but they're not over here. So this patchwork, to me, it's more harder than if I just start leveling out with heavy stuff all the way in the beginning. I'll be looking for this as I go. This should have been taken out with the working grip, but now I got to piece it, patch it, and put it together. So let's get a better look at those scratches. All right, here you're seeing those scratches that I was seeing up just past the ones that are pointed toward the rag. It gets smoothened out and it's all nice and even, but over here on the edge you see these deep strike marks, and they're going to show if I don't get rid of them. So I'm going to drop down and work the edge with a heavier grit. I'm going to go ahead and give 220 a try. No interface pad. I'm going to turn it up a little bit, and I am starting without grease, and I'll probably add grease here in just a second and explain that. So because I was using a rotary pad, it puts like a moon-shaped line in there. I crossed my line one way and then the other in a different direction from the line that was in there I was trying to get rid of. When I saw that line go away and the paper begin to fade, I went and grabbed the grease. I'm going to take a small amount of grease and rub it right down on the part. That might be just a little too much, maybe not. You can always wipe it off. So on heavier grits, 220, 320, down to 120, you can use a lot of grease, and as it gets toward the end, you want to make sure it's very, very small amount or it will gum up and it'll cause problems. And it does help if the metal's warm. Remember we talked about stainless, whether it likes heat or it likes cold. It does not like to be cold and it don't like to be hot. It likes to be warm. And we're definitely not there yet. This is still cold metal. Cool, not cold. Anyways, let's proceed. It's with the same piece of paper. I haven't put new paper on yet. Just added grease. Now I'm going to take the 220 off. I'm going to switch to 320, and there's actually a tiny little bit of grease residue still on there, and I'm going to start dry, and with that little bit of residue, and I'm going to break down this little patch and get it to 320. Looking like 320 might take most of the stuff I need down. There'll still be some little stuff in the background I don't like, but again, this customer is not looking for perfection, and if I try to make it perfect, quite frankly, I'll be here like all day, and don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and take it to the next step. So we're beginning to see some uniformity down there, and I can tell what scratches I'm putting in and what was already there. I think the last grit that I had on was 400. I'm getting ready to switch to 600, and I think I can probably find some of the character I was talking about. You can't always get, see if I can zoom in on the little pin pricks and pits. Those are going to stay there. I could have got them out. If I'm the one who started on the bumper, I might have stayed a little bit longer on that area. Now, if you focus on the area too small, when the light hits it, you're going to see a divot. So to get those out, you actually have to sand a really big area, or you just have to let it go and explain to the customer, look, it's either there or it's going to cost you a lot more money to get that out to make it perfect. So I'm not sure how that got there in the first place. It is, you know, this material, if you look at the back side of it, I'll tip this up later and I'll show you the back side of it. It's nowhere near smooth. This started out really rough, then it was bent, welded, and all that other good stuff. But anyways, we're down to 400. I'm going to switch to 600, which kind of rare, but I'm actually out of green 6, so we're going to hope that that works, and if not, I have some 3M gold. Now we're going to try that. I would preferably like to have the Sunlight, but we're going to step through and see if the Sunlight gold works. And then if we can make it to 800 and keep it clean, the buffing part of this is going to go. going to go smoothly and quickly, and then we're going to get the mirror finish that we're looking for with little or very little, if not. Yeah, we're going to leave a little hash in this one, I'm going to be honest with you. So that came out a little better than expected. If I'm being honest, I like what I see, and I like what I felt. As I was going back and forth, I kind of called an audible, and because of the friction, you get a certain feel for the friction, and if it's real grippy and it starts to smear the metal, you've got to do something different. You've got to either add grease, switch paper, you've got to do something different. But I didn't feel the need for that. It was super smooth. You can see a reflection now starting to come just out of the sanded finish, and I'm only at 600, so I still have one more grit to go. Okay. So what I just discovered is that the 600 gold was working better than the green 8. It started picking up some stuff and might need to be cleaned. Sometimes you wipe it down with minnow spirits or dissolver, and then it's got to be wiped dry and start over. But before I do anything, I'm going to switch to gold 8 because I had really good luck with the gold 6. I didn't expect to. So these are audibles that you call along the way, things that you figure out after all the experience I have, 40 plus years of experience. You would think I know exactly what to do here, and I don't. But I know how to figure it out on the fly, how to make changes, minor changes. I'm liking what I see here, but I was just starting to it just wasn't looking how I wanted to look. It's got to look how you want it to look, and we'll get into how to learn how to look. There's a whole art to that, how to roll it in the light and what to look for. But I'm going to switch to gold 8, and we're going to keep going and see what happens. All right, let's try again. I am liking that better. That's better. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm not going to use grease unless I feel I need to. I like what I see. I like what I feel. So I'm just going to keep on going. like what I see. Let's swing this thing over here and spin her up. Now check this out. I'm using 6-inch paper, and I used the middle, and I did not use the edge. I hardly used the edge at all. When I was running this flat, and when you run it perfectly flat, you can see actually a deeper line in the middle where it's spinning slower. And then after I get it right toward the end, more and more I'll start leaning pressure on one side but without lifting. So the outer edge never does get hit, but just inside here all the way to the middle, that's what's really touching, and the rest of it is basically just floating. It's just so lightly skimming, it comes around more pressure. And I rotate the pressure from one side to the other depending on where I'm at. So in the very end, you get a finish that looks like this. Now we're going to get into some buffing wheels. I think I got it down to the point where one of those is going to take it the rest of the way, and now it's time to figure out which one. So I've decided to try the orange to get started. And I don't use airways very much, and I haven't done stainless in a really long time. And I probably should have an actual official rake, but I'm going to improvise. I've taken a piece of wood and I put some screws in the tip of it. These are actually called cold cutters, like a self-tapper. And I'm going to use that to rake the wheel up, because when it's brand new and it hasn't been raked yet, there's nothing really for the compound to adhere to or absorb into or whatever. So we're going to condition the wheel before we get started with a homemade rake. I'm going to be using Black Magic from Renegade. There's the number. On my TikTok, there's a link in my bio. I'll get a link here in my YouTube before long, but if you go to Renegade's webpage and you place an order, it's Brightly 15 all caps for the discount code. After I get through cutting all the sand lines out, I'm going to use the Yellow Deluxe, and it's going to bring out the color. I'm going to use it probably with a different wheel. We're going to step down to a different wheel. I'm told this is a color bar for stainless, so we're going to cut, and then we're going to color. We might try the Q36 in there somewhere along the way, because I'm curious to see how that does on stainless steel. And we might try a couple different wheels. With stainless, it's smaller steps, so where I might 2-step aluminum, no problem. This could be 3 or even 4 steps, but I'm going to do a small sample with this, and if I feel it's leaving too much hash behind, more than I could wipe out easily with the next step, I'm going to right away stop, and I'm going to jump to the next wheel. But I have no way of knowing until I at least start somewhere. They have a red, it's a little more aggressive than this, and then they have several other ones. Let me go grab those. So the red I think is our most aggressive. Then I think it's the orange. This is all treated fabric. It's all the same as the white, but after it's been treated with, I'll learn more about exactly what the treating is and how it affects the material, but all the material's pre-treated, it makes it stiffer. So each one of these have a varying degree of stiffness. That one's like in the medium range. They say it's not for stainless, but it does work. I'm almost certain of it, and I think I'm probably going to test it out to see. I've used this before on breathers to clean them up real quick with exactly those compound, and it's worked really well. When it's not needing to be sanded, it's just lightly frosted, and you just need to give it a little bit of cleanup, take out that real light fog. The purple followed with a color wheel, and I've been able to step out air cleaners like in a minute. This is the finest one. It could be used as a color buff on stainless. Used properly and with the right compound, this will leave a super, super good finish. The flannel and a full-blown color bar can take the hash out and make it perfect. Let's see what happens. Alright, so I cut out a small section with the orange wheel here, and it's looking pretty good. I'd like it to be going a little quicker than it did. My sanding could be a little bit better, and I think maybe I could have actually used a red wheel for the first cut. Before I go too far, and this is a big tip, anytime you guys are working on a job and you're not really sure, especially on the bigger stuff, gravel trains like, do a sample. Do one panel, do maybe a couple panels, start to finish. See for yourself if it's going to be trouble. Is it going to be easy? You know, how's the material? How is it that day? And then when you're done with those two panels and you take a time, you'll know how long it's going to take to do the whole rest of it. That's when you can bring the customer in and get a thumbs up or thumbs down. If he's wowed by what you do, then you can rock it, you know, maybe even did a little too much. But if he's not happy, now's the time to know before you get like to the end of a great big job and especially if it's not going well, you don't want to sand all the way out front only to have a problem and have to change things up. So anyways, I'm going to switch to the white untreated, and I'm going to cross my lines in a different direction. I've got the temperature about where I like it. It's warm to the touch, but not hot. And if it gets so hot that I just can't touch it for longer than a couple seconds, then in my opinion, it's too hot. Stainless don't like to be cold, does not like to be hot, likes to be warm. So I'm going to grab the white wheel, and I'm going to use 2 compounds. First, the same cut bar, but in a different direction. Then I'm going to switch directions yet again and come back to the way I was just doing it with the orange wheel, but I'll be using the white untreated, and then at that point the yellow bar, which I think is finer. So between all this crossing of the lines and using 2 different bars with 1 wheel, it's going to get me closer to the final step, which is going to be a flannel. So let's go. So as you can see, the closer to the edge, in that last couple inches, it's nearly perfect. Now it's not perfect. I'm going to get the light bulb in there. We'll show you exactly what is still left. It's not been colored yet, so there's still a real fine line in there, and that can be taken out with the color wheel after a couple of crosses. So now we're going to use the Maverick Competition Purple. We're going to put it on Big Fluffy, which is awesome. Big Fluffy, Competition Purple. Let's see what we can do here. I'm liking to put a little bit of this on there and try that, because that has almost no cut in it, and I can still see a little bit of those cross lines. We're right on the edge of absolute perfect. It's not perfect. I'm not going to try to get it perfect. Let me pull the camera off here and show you what I'm looking at. In the light, there's those spots. You can see right in the light the character in the metal. I said I wasn't even going to try to get out. But you're looking at the light for hash. Those little cross lines of speckles coming straight out of that light. When you get into the sand, you can see it a ton. You see the lines fade and go away, and I'm right near perfect. A couple more little playing around with it, and I will have it line free. And if I were to sand it better, I could have it pit free. It's getting real close, real close. You put the light bulb right in it and change your focal point, and you can see the imperfections that are in there. That's under the most intense LED lights. I'm telling you, those things are brutal. When this comes out in the sun, it's going to look good, and the customer's just going to be wowed, and he's going to love what I can do. And that's going to about conclude today's episode, because I've learned a couple things here today. Well, there it is. It's done, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about how it went. So I found the red with the black bar to be the fastest cut. Then I softened up the lines. I stayed with the black bar, and I used the pink wheel. And then I switched to the yellow bar, but stayed with the pink wheel, and found out that I don't need the yellow coker anymore. I tried the Q36, and I have mixed feelings about it. I liked it one minute, didn't like it the next, so I'm just confused. But I love the purple competition mixed with the yellow bar on Big Fluffy. That's the finished product. That's when the whole thing was done. Took about 5 hours, I think. Have to check the clock. I took a few breaks, did a few things. But anyways, there it is. Thank you guys for the subscriptions, the likes, the follows, all the attention, and so on and so forth. And go to Renegade Products, Brightly 15, all caps. That'll get you a discount on all the products that I use to do this bumper. Stay tuned for the next video on YouTube. Who knows what it'll be. Just going to take the projects as they come. But this was fun to do, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Later.